thank you very much, and welcome to the June 23rd, 2021 City of Mesa Planning and Zoning Board public hearing. We'll begin by taking roll call for the board members. Chair Astle is absent. Vice Chair Sarkisian here. Board Member Boyle.
Here.
Board Member Allen is absent. Board Member Crockett.
Here.
Board Member Villanueva Salcedo.
Here.
And Board Member Ayers.
Here.
As part of today's agenda, we have a consent agenda. It will be read into record and acted on in one motion. They will not be discussed individually, and Board Member Boyle has volunteered to read today's consent agenda. Do we receive any more comment cards? Okay, and we do have one item coming off the agenda, which was, what did I say? It was 4B. So with that, Board Member Boyle.
Items on the consent agenda. Item number 2A, the minutes from the June 9th, 2021 study session and regular meeting. Item 3A, PZ 21075, ZON 20-00876, District 6, within the 3800 block of South Power Road, East Side, located south of Elliott Road on the east side of Power Road. Site plan review. Staff recommendation, approval with conditions. Item 4A, PZ 21076, ZON 20-00840, District 1, within the 1000 block of East McKellips Road, South Side, located west of Stapley Drive on the south side of McKellips Road, rezoned from a single residence 9 and multiple residence 4 to multiple residence 2 with a planned area development overlay, PAD, and a site plan review. Staff recommendation is to continue to August 25th, 2021. Item 4C, PZ 21078, ZON 21-00293, District 1, within the 1900 block of East McKellips Road, located west of Gilbert Road on the north side of McKellips Road, rezoned from AG to LC. Staff recommendation, approval with conditions. Item 5A, PZ 21079, Avalon Crossing, District 6, ZON 21-00138, within the 10,100 to 10,600 blocks of East Williamsfield Road, South Side, and the 6,6400 blocks of South 222nd Streets, West Side. Staff recommendation, approval with conditions. Item 5B, PZ 21080, View 202, District 6, the ZON 21-00125, within the 4,800 to 5,000 blocks of South Ellsworth Road, West Side, located on the west side of Ellsworth Road, north of Ray Road. Staff recommendation, approval with conditions.
Okay, thank you very much. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor? Let's see. Oh. I can't see anything. So it looks like motion carries with ayes, with Chair Astle absent and Board Member Allen absent. Okay, moving on to the first item, 4B. 4B. Okay, moving on to ZON 21-00224, District 6, within the 8,800 to 9,100 blocks of East Elliott Road, North Side, and with the 8,900 to 9,100 blocks of East Peterson Avenue, South Side, located west of Ellsworth Road on the north side of Elliott Road, and rezoned from LC with a planned area development and planned employment park, PEP-PAD, to light industrial PAD and site plan review. This request will allow for an industrial development, and Cassidy is going to do our presentation.
Vice Chair, members of the board. This case is item ZON 21-00224. The site is located north of Elliott Road, west of Ellsworth, on the east side of the Loop 202 freeway. The general plan designation for the property is mixed-use activity district and employment. The intention behind the employment character area designation is to provide for a regional activity area with a wide range of employment opportunities, which may include some supportive commercial. Here you can see the proposed site. It is currently vacant. The request before you today is a rezone from LC PAD and PEP PAD to light industrial with a planned area development overlay and site plan review to allow for an industrial development. As a part of the request, there is a PAD overlay, which includes reductions to the minimum site area, increases to the maximum building height for 60 feet, and 150 feet for ancillary facilities. Ancillary facilities are defined as non-building structures, such as mechanical equipment systems and structural systems needed to support operations on the property, as well as a revision to the minimum parking ratio and a reduction in the required landscaping on the west side due to an SRP easement. The subject request includes a DA, a development agreement, that will be processed in coordination with it going to City Council. That development agreement does include some prohibited land uses consistent with the Elliott Road Technology Corridor list of prohibited land uses. The site plan is for 4 large-scale industrial buildings totaling approximately 500 square feet. The truck docks for each building will be located internally and screened from public view. And then there will be future commercial pad sites located along Elliott Road. The site went to design review in June, and the design review board did not have any major comments. The applicant did conduct a citizen participation process, which included property owners within 1,000 feet. No response was received by the applicant nor staff. With that, we find that the proposed request meets the intent for the 2040 Mesa General Plan designation of employment, complies with the intent of the Gateway Strategic Development Plan, and meets the criteria in Chapters 22 for PAD overlay and Chapter 69 for site plan review. And staff is recommending approval with conditions, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Cassidy. This item was pulled by a member of the board. Do we want to have the applicant, are they available online?
Chair, board members, I think, yes, the applicant is online if you want to ask him to make any presentation.
Yeah, if the applicant wants to address the board, or if they want to wait until comments.
Members of the board, this is Taylor Earl with Earl and Curley. Address is 3101 North Central Avenue. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just didn't want to talk into a box here. Here on behalf of Trammell Crow, I think one of the critical points that was mentioned, and of course we're happy to answer questions. A couple of things we just want to sort of say here, and happy to go through a presentation, but we thought maybe just jump to some of the questions that were asked. Starting with the landscaping on the west side, in our conversations with SRP, we were specifically told that they haven't done construction in that area yet, so we were asked to not, put in landscaping that would simply have to be removed and torn up in the process. And again, then you have a remaining easement there where they don't want to see trees, as was stated. So that request is merely a function of the situation that we're in and the proximity that we are to that easement area. And as was stated, so we have done the best we can by relocating all that landscaping to the site so that we're still having that same amount. And then also, as was noted, by having that building A rotated so that you're not only having that front of the building, we've also done quite a bit of architecture work. You can see that the building has a lot of movement in it. And as we went to the design review board, they were very complimentary of our building design and our elevations. And so we've done the best we can, especially on that side. And frankly, we could talk more about the design, but we were very happy with the warm embrace that we got from the design review board. As mentioned, there were just sort of minor tweaks, but they were happy with the way that it was designed. Also was noted, I think it's really important that we are in conformance with the general plan. And I think that's really key for our request. When we came in, the city noted that we would be consistent with the general plan if we simply rezoned the property to LI, a hard LI zoning. And, but we understood that there were certain uses that the city also didn't want to see on the property. And so what we did is said, well, we can do a PAD with an accompanying development agreement in which we can remove out uses from LI, even though that would be consistent with the general plan. We will, work with the city and remove out uses that we also don't feel that we need. And so that's that process that we went through in working with staff to remove out uses. There were several uses that we would have preferred to retain, but staff came back and really wanted us to remove them. And so we went back to our team and came back and said, okay, we can remove those. And there were several, many of those uses that fit into that. So we did the very best we could to eliminate uses, to sort of, again, work with the city on this. And so we retained that compliance with the general plan. And one thing also to note is that existing on the property today is LC zoning, LCPAD on call about 65% of the site. And, that of course would allow large retail. And so by rezoning the property, we've essentially just retained a small retail component to the corner to just so to be supportive of the employment that we're proposing, and frankly also the hospital, to be able to have some type of uses there. A restaurant, people can grab food on the way to work or during their lunch break. We think it's really complementary of this employment corridor the city is seeking. The other question was about our neighborhood outreach. We have had multiple conversations with the hospital and with other adjacent property owners in the area. And so not only did we just simply do the standard, and we have had proactive, conversations in that regard. And so, again, I think that's the key. There was a question sort of about, the transportation facilities and things like that. As was noted, we did agree to remove out the two uses that fall underneath that umbrella, which is the freight warehouse and the truck terminal. And passenger terminal. So those are the two uses that were recently added to the prohibited list, and in addition to the other uses that were mentioned. And so what we feel like we have is the Trammell Crow, of course, has been doing this a very, very long time. And so what they looked at was, we want to have a successful employment corridor. They've been bringing successful employment uses all over the valley, and have done so very well. So they chose this site and selected the uses they felt they absolutely needed to have in order to make sure that they could be successful, that they could bring in the employment uses, that they could have a successful operation here. And so we essentially gave up all those that we felt that we could give up, and frankly, even a little bit more than that, were given up and placed into the prohibited use list. So again, certainly happy to answer any questions beyond, hopefully I provided some answers, but happy to answer any additional questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Board members, comments, questions? Board Member Crockett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Earl, I appreciate the response to the discussion we had during the study session, and I also appreciate the applicant's willingness to work with the town or with the city to try to address some of the city's concerns. I do still have some concerns. The city of Mesa has a major investment in this Elliott Road technology corridor. There's a hospital facility located adjacent to the property, and I still have some concerns about whether this use is the best use or a consistent use with what's already there in light of the investment that's been made. And I guess my other concern is around the development agreement. We don't have the development agreement. I don't think it's been completed. We haven't seen a draft of it. So as far as the commitment to exclude certain uses, I appreciate that, but without having that document really to review, I'm just still concerned about the use there.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I could speak to that.
Yes, that'd be great.
The uses that we're referring to, it's important to keep in mind that within our PAD document, we do have a prohibited use list. And so we've incorporated that into the PAD. And I think that we have actually added additional prohibitions in the development agreement, but the development agreement is designed to be sort of in most jurisdictions, a development agreement would absolutely not be necessary. You would simply prohibit them within the PAD document, and that is sufficient. Mesa is the only jurisdiction I'm aware of where you have to provide that prohibition in a parallel development agreement. And so, again, there are prohibitions that prohibit uses that were put into the PAD. The development agreement is effectively designed to serve as sort of a legal codification of what is already placed in the PAD. The other thing I would also note too is that while we're showing a site plan and there are potentials for dock doors and those types of things, that's not absolutely required, of course. And we understand that there are manufacturing uses that are in the areas we've spoken with the economic development. They think there's a strong market for that. And so certainly we think that those types of users will generally pay a higher rate. They are a great tenant that we absolutely want to have. And so all we have is simply some flexibility that we felt that was the need. We needed to have the flexibility. And so that's why we didn't opt into the 6-week process. And I think as was said by Mr. Appia, that the city has not made it a policy to force every single development to opt into the tech corridor PAD. It's certainly an option and an incentive that is provided that if you're willing to accept all of these prohibitions, then you can go through a faster rezoning process. And so again, at the beginning of the process, we were very much understood that we could actually seek an LI zoning, that would be consistent with the general plan. But we said, well, we don't necessarily need the whole thing, so why don't we go to this PAD route? And again, manufacturing those types of uses would be great. And we hope that if their tenants are there and Mr. Jabjiniak and his staff can help us, as well as we do our own work to bring those types of tenants, we would be delighted to have all of those. We just have to have some uses as flexibility in order that if those users go to adjacent facilities or there's competition in the market as more users come in, we just have to have the flexibility in order to make sure that our facility can be full, that we can have tenants. But to simply show the presence of certain types of doors or other things that would be there for those types of users don't necessarily need to be used, of course. And so we are aligned with the city. We think that what we're proposing here is consistent with the city's vision for employment. We will be bringing a lot of employment, as Tremble Crow has always done with their facilities.
Thank you. Staff, did you have any comments about the development agreement?
Chair, members of the board, so I'm looking at the restrictions that are basically restricted even if they had opted in to the Elliott Road Tech Corridor. And if you look at the list of, and Veronica is here to read the list because board member Crockett mentioned that he has not seen the development agreement. Typically, the development agreement, not typically, is approved by City Council. And so our recommendation for approval is absolutely tied to the development agreement. Without a development agreement, staff will not be recommending approval. And in terms of the prohibited list of uses that basically this PAD is prohibiting, it's taking it absolutely very close to even if they had opted into the development agreement. And if you want that to be read into the record, Veronica has that extensive list that we can read into the record to provide you information as to what is being prohibited. In addition to that, I would just add that whenever we review these projects, we look at the criteria, which is in the general plan. We don't have that mandate to basically force any development to opt into either the form-based code or the Elliott Road Tech Corridor or the Pecos Employment Opportunity Area. Our goal and part of what we do is to make sure that whatever uses that are allowed there is compatible and is going to, at the end of the day, foster and promote even those that chooses to opt in. So those are all the things that we look at, and that's why you actually have the DA prohibiting certain uses that in our discussion with him, in our discussion with certain members of the economic development, were basically centered around this for us to really come to where we are today. So Veronica, do you mind reading, if the board so desire, we can read into the record the uses that have been prohibited.
Sure.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, board members. Give me just a minute here to pull that up. Okay. The development agreement we've been working with the applicant on includes, as Dr. Apia had noted, it's quite an extensive list of prohibited uses. Many, in fact, most of the prohibited uses I'm about to list here are actually very similar to what you'll find in the prohibited uses list for the development agreement related to a property that would opt into the Elliott Road Technology Corridor. So the list begins with correctional transitional housing facilities, clubs and lodges, cultural institutions, daycare centers as a standalone use, but they are allowed as a component of a service to on-site business and industry, places of worship, schools, public or private, animal sales and services, which includes kennels, pet stores, veterinary services, artist studios, automobile rentals, vehicle repair, major vehicle repair are prohibited as a primary use, but they are allowed as a secondary or accessory use to another permitted use. Vehicle repair or minor vehicle repair, again, prohibited as a primary use, but allowed as an accessory to a permitted use. Automobile vehicle washing, not as a primary use, but again as an accessory use to permitted use. Large vehicle and equipment sales, service, and rental. Service stations, limited to a maximum of one facility. Towing and impound, building materials and services. Commercial recreation, small scale and large scale. Eating and drinking establishments with drive-through facilities are limited to a maximum of 2. Farmers markets, funeral parlors and mortuaries, live-work units, marijuana uses, including recreational dispensaries, medical dispensaries, and cultivation facilities, commercial parking, personal services, plant nurseries and garden centers, swap meets and flea markets, tattoo and body piercing parlors, recycling facilities. This includes reverse vending machines, small indoor collection facilities, large collection facilities, airport land use classifications, including airport refueling stations, aircraft light maintenance, airport transit stations, airport-related long-term parking lots, heliports, transportation facilities, outdoor entertainment or outdoor activities, and finally, outdoor display.
Thank you. That is a nice extensive list, and thank you for reading that. Are there...
Chair, board members, yes. I also just wanted to add under that section of the development agreement, and Veronica, if you could clarify if I misspeak, if there is a question about any of the land uses and whether they're prohibited or not, and whether it is a use that is prohibited, it would be a determination by the zoning administrator, but it is subject to our appeal section in our zoning ordinance.
Thank you. I'll open it to the board, but also I feel that, like as the staff has mentioned, this is an employment category, and this is the Elliott Road corridor area. And if you were just looking at it from the PAD standpoint without a site plan, you would see, the light industrial and the PAP, so the PAD of it. So I think the concern might have come with the site plan, but they're still looking for uses and things like that. So we'll see what comes to be, and the site plan still could, ultimately could change, depending on a user when it gets decided upon. So, but does the board have any more comments or questions? Anything else? Okay. Does the applicant want to say anything? I believe we're good with questions, so I'll close close the public, open it to anybody in the public. I don't believe there's anybody here. Close the public meeting, online either. Close the public meeting, open it for a motion.
Motion to approve item 4B, ZON 2100-00224, District 6, within the 8800 and 9100 blocks of East Elliott Road North Side and within the 8900 and 9100 blocks of East Peterson Avenue South Side, located west of Ellsworth Road on the north side of Elliott Road, rezoned from limited commercial with a planned area development overlay PAD and planned employment park PAD to light industrial LI PAD and site plan review. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion is second. All in favor, please vote. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 ayes, Board Member Crockett with a nay, and Board Member Allen and Chair Astle are absent. So motion passes. All right. Is there any other items to discuss?
Chair, board members, not an item, but I have few information to share. Wahid, I think I shared this with you during the study session the last time. This is his last P&Z hearing, so I think that's why he's here, just to enjoy it for the last time. I just want to take this opportunity myself to really just thank him for his service to the city. I think he always tells me all the things that he's done and all the sub-area plans that he actually has autographed from all the council members and the city staff. So he's going to be reading them in his retirement, but we are really grateful. I think there's so many other documents and work that he's done that he's, as you guys may know, Wahid is very passionate about, design and architecture of buildings. So I've told him before he leaves, he has to actually select somebody in the department to carry that baton. So we'll see who carries that on. But I just want to thank him for his service to the city, and he's really going to be missed. So, and the next person who has also decided to go to the other side of the aisle, where he's basically taking a lot of projects with him, is Tom. As you guys all know, Tom is actually leaving us. I think today is his last, this is his last P&Z. He's decided to go plan on a bigger scale, basically with the county. So we've told him Maricopa County is part of, Mesa is part of Maricopa, so he's still going to be doing planning in Mesa. So every kind of cases that we think we need help, we're going to send it to them to review and give us comments. But Tom has really been helpful, at least to me, for the past 2.5 years. He's really served me well, has helped me to really do a lot of things, and I'm definitely going to miss him very much. There wouldn't be anybody I can just call and shut the door and just say, how do we deal with this issue? So I just want to take this opportunity to really thank him, and also for the 22 or over 22 years that he served the city. But the good thing is he's still going to be working for the county, and we all have to work together to make this place a better place to live. So thank you to Wahid and Tom. They are really going to be missed. So.
Congratulations. Congratulations, you guys. And so Wahid needs to come back as a neighborhood activist in the design review, and Tom will all bother you, and yeah, it'll be great. It'll be great.
Got some projects already.
Yeah, we got it all lined up. Lots of neighbors. All right, so this concludes the June 23rd meeting at the City Mesa Planning and Zoning Board hearing. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor? We're all here, everybody except for Chair Astle and Board Member Allen. So thank you guys. Thank you.